This is the Hype Squad with Charli McConnell, a podcast where women can be full of themselves and brag about what they're good at. Each week, we're going to bring you conversations covering topics like motherhood, life, relationships, business, and everything in between, because anything is possible with your very own Hype Squad. What's up, ladies? Welcome back to the Hype Squad. I'm Charli McConnell, your host. Please help me welcome Jen Kaylo to the Hype Squad. She is the host of the Open Bedroom podcast and a multi-million-dollar revenue generator at her retail firm, Growth Spurt Sales and Marketing. She's a dog mom, a boy mom, a life partner to Scott, a podcast host, and a certified sex and relationship coach who specializes in helping couples open their relationships, conscious uncoupling, and online dating in open relationships. Some of the common themes on her podcast and her coaching include open relationships, swinging, polyamory, online dating, Tinder, and sex. She is a successful businesswoman and an all-around badass, and I'm so grateful she's here today. Jen, welcome to the Hype Squad.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
I'm so happy you're here. So I've been on your podcast before, and it feels such a beautiful full circle moment to now have you on mine. I want to give anyone listening backstory about how that all came out, but I also just want to let you start. Welcome. Tell us if there's anything else you want to add to your intro.
Oh my gosh, that was such a good intro. No, I think that covers everything because it is a lot of things, right? Like I think when we live fully aligned lives, we don't have to hide all these different parts of us. And so we can be the multi-million-dollar revenue person, and we can be in an open relationship, and we can be a dog mom, and we can also be at the baseball field with our kids. Like it's just, we just get to show up however we want to show up. So yeah, that was all encompassing.
It's balance, girl. Sometimes it's a shit show. Sometimes it's great. Everything's firing on all four cylinders, but yeah, we are multifaceted for sure. So I want to share. So I was on your podcast last summer. We know each other originally because we both did the same certification for our sex and relationship coaching. And that's how we met. We roomed together. And I'll even take it further back than that. The first breakout session we had in our course, because it was all like a virtual course, you and I were in the same breakout session. And I immediately loved your energy. And it's so funny because I wasn't used to virtual things. I didn't know how it would translate, but it didn't matter. Like I felt your energy coming through the screen. You introduced yourself. You were full of life and energy. And that was my first meeting of you. And I loved you from that moment. And then we roomed together in Austin at a facilitators retreat that we went to. And kind of the rest is history.
Can I pause real quick in here? Because I want to add two things.
Yeah.
One, our very first call when you and I met and we were in that little group together was the very first night that Scott and I ever pretended to be other people and met out and had a date. So I had that facilitator, like that very first call with Alexa, and you were in my little pod. And I was in the hotel room, like preparing and getting ready to go have this super sexy evening with my partner. So again, it's all about balance, right? I was like doing class, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to go be Brandy after this and go put my Brandy outfit on and go meet him downstairs for drinks and have a super sexy night.
I remember you being in a hotel room and thinking, this girl knows what's up. Because for me, I wouldn't consider myself great at balance. Like I am a little bit of a control freak in certain aspects in my life. And so when you said I'm in a hotel taking this first class, I'm going to have to leave early because my date is starting before. And you were not making any excuses. You were like, this is important, but this is also really important. And I'm going to do both. Yeah. And I loved that energy. I wanted more of that energy. And that was part of the reason why I just was like head over heels for you at that moment. So
also, I want to make sure that you pop the link to the episode that you and I did below, because Charli is amazing and she taught me how to schedule sex dates because her and her husband do this. And so we've taken this into our own relationship, especially with our triad. And we talk about this all the time, that we are so freaking busy, all three of us. And if we don't put our sex dates on the calendar and we don't put sexploration, like we're not learning. If we don't just put play, we're not going out to like a cabaret night. And so I am so grateful for that particular podcast episode that we did and what you taught us. And I've had so many listeners go, oh my gosh, I'm getting up my calendar too every month. And like, this is changing our relationship and we're trying new things and things are staying spicy. So I love it. And please, I hope that you share that in the notes.
I definitely will. And I will also say, first of all, thank you for inviting me to do it in the first place. It was so exciting to get the opportunity to do that. And it was something and is something that Colby and I still do to this day. And I teach my clients about it. And I've done a couple of workshops. I'll do a podcast with Colby because I think it's really important to have his perspective too about what it's like to be on the other side of that and how he appreciates it. And I just appreciate you, first of all, and I feel like this is just like our love gab session for each other right now. We'll get into like the real conversation in a minute, but right now we're just going to like be in our feels because when I did your podcast, it like opened up something inside of me for podcasts and I had like it planted a seed for me. Do I want to do this? And I put it off for a long time. But then recently when I decided to move forward with this, Jen, you have been like my North Star in this entire process. Like it has been so helpful. I could almost get emotional about it, knowing that I could come to you and ask you questions, get your feedback, and you have just given it to me without a second thought. You've given me all kinds of platforms to use and tips. You told me where to get microphones and the hookups I needed for my cord. And I'm just so damn grateful to have you in my life as a friend and someone to look up to and all the things. So if nothing else, if you get nothing out of listening to this podcast, go listen to Jen's podcast. It's amazing. She talks about all the shit that you think about, but you never talk about out loud. And I want to show appreciation for you because I know that hasn't been easy for you to put yourself out there like this in so many different facets, but it is changing the tone and the conversation for grownups to be able to talk about shit more authentically. And I just fucking love you for that. So
thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now that we're all full of love and goo-goo and all the things, I want to talk about business. I think it's something that you and I can both relate and we can both have a great conversation about. You are a badass businesswoman. I am a badass businesswoman. And I know that something that you really pride yourself on is not like stepping out of the masculine in your business and into the feminine. And I want to talk about that. What was that like for you? Walk us through it. I want to hear you brag about all the ways that you turned that around for yourself.
Cool. Okay. And this is fun because I'm normally talking about sex and relationships.
Yeah.
So like to talk about the business side is really fun. And I enjoyed connecting with you as fellow businesswomen that have created multi-million dollar companies. I haven't sold a company yet like you have, but you know, hey, goals.
Still.
So I would say I'm in I have multiple businesses. One is the coaching and relationship, like Charli. I focus though on open relationships and helping people create dynamics specific for them. I have a podcast. That's a business in itself. As Charli will tell you, it's a lot of work. And then the third thing is I own a retail company. And that's the thing I've had the longest. I've had it for over a decade and I've worked either directly for the world's largest retailer or with them as a broker for almost 20 years. And it's a very masculine space, as you can imagine. It's men in sales in suits, or at least it was 15 to 20 years ago. And so when I entered into this space, I was in my very early 20s. And I knew I wanted to climb the ladder. Like I knew I was smart. I knew I was going to be successful. And I looked around and I was like, okay, I need to dress like them. I need to dress like the guys. I need to act like the guys. And thankfully I had a lot of Mary Kay experience, like Mary Kay Cosmetics. Some of your girls that are listening to this may be like, who the hell is Mary Kay? But it was this MLM. It's probably still out there that everybody our age, like we went to a Mary Kay party, we did pampered chef parties. Like that was a really big thing when Charli and I were younger.
Mm-hmm.
So I started selling Mary Kay when I was like, I just turned 18, like my 18th birthday, I went and signed up. And I have always been a salesperson. I love sales. I love selling. I love helping women. I love empowerment. And some of the principles that the company instills in you is really beautiful and it's really helpful. One is dress for the position that you want, not the position that you have. And so I learned in my early 20s to wear suits and wear hose and wear heels and wear makeup and dress appropriately and not slutty and like to dress for the position that I wanted. And I remember going into the office and I'd look around at my coworkers and they're wearing like stretchy pants and look, not homeless, but they don't look like they want to be the director. And I would come in and like my power suit and they'd be like, are you going to an interview? And I'm like, no, this is how I dress. Like, I'm going to be the director one day. And I think some of that, it's definitely feminine principles. So like I started out in that feminine principled mindset of dressing for the success that I wanted, which also comes with intentionality, I think, in manifesting. They didn't ever call it, you're manifesting your future job, but I totally did. And it imprinted in the men around me, this chick is professional. This woman wants to climb the ladder. And I did. So I finished my undergrad. I finished my MBA while I was working for Walmart, had 2 babies, kept getting promoted every year and a half, and was on this trajectory to be director, senior vice president, whatever, within Walmart, world's largest retailer. I live in Arkansas. Should I stop here? Do you have any questions at this point?
No, keep going.
Okay.
I'm loving this.
And so I feel like I had a lot of masculine energy at this point. The people that were teaching me how to be in these roles that I wanted to be led harshly. They would tell our suppliers, like, we want cost decreases, not increases. If you can't reach this MOQ, this minimum order quantity, like you're not going to be on shelf. It was very cutthroat. It was, I'm demanding and I want this and I'm the boss. And I hated it. But then I also learned, well, this is how I have to be if I'm going to be a buyer one day, or if I'm going to be a senior vice president one day. And so I think I just kept like armoring myself to get these new positions and kind of like leverage my way up to the top. And one day I was like, there has to be more to life than this. I am having heart palpitations in my late 20s because I'm doing so many people's jobs. I'm having to dress a certain way. With each one of my kids, as soon as I had my babies, I would immediately diet, like severely diet, so I could be back in the exact size pants when I came back from maternity leave 90 days later. And in my mind, like, this is just the way I had to be. And something shifted for me. I think it was motherhood. It was like getting on more of a kind of organic, crunchy path of like looking at life that I could be healthier. And maybe I want to look at organic, and maybe I want to, cloth diaper my kids and like nurse my babies. And all of a sudden I was like, whoa, what am I doing here? And then I left Walmart, and at some point I joined this priestess program. Like I joined all these like hippie ladies. And there was this night that we were talking about masculine energy. And I like held my hand up and I was like, I have been walking around my entire adult life with a metaphorical dick, a giant metaphorical dick, slinging it around, like doing whatever I needed to do, climbing this ladder, and I'm freaking exhausted. I don't have support. I'm angry at my husband all the time because I never feel like I'm getting what I need. And it was because I just kept going and doing and conquering. And I don't think that women are built for that. And we're not sustainably long term. That does not work. We get sick. We get run down. We have nervous breakdowns. We have to get on Xanax. Like, I don't think anyone's built for that, but definitely not women. So that was my turning point into realizing I can do things differently. I can learn to be softer. And that particular women's event that I went to, I came home a different person. I came home with soft energy. I took the business that at that point, I had started my own brokerage firm. And I started looking at my business and going, why am I operating in this particular way? Why am I not charging engagement fees? Why do I think my team has to be huge? Why am I looking at selling my company one day? What if I looked at it instead as I'm already kind of retired? What if my business fully supports me? What if I ask for help? What if I freaking delegate? What if I like all of these things? And I started eventually over the years to learn I could step outside of my business. I could allow my team to do what they're brilliant at and hire people that are smarter than me. And then I could go sit in my hammock and read a book and make money in my sleep. And that's where I am now.
Damn. Yeah. Okay. So I have so much to add from my own viewpoint. My business experience, because it was only recently that I would consider myself an entrepreneur. I've worked in marketing, I've worked in banking, I've worked in property management. I am a registered nurse. Like, I've really been all over the place. And for me, I took a little bit of all of those things into my entrepreneur life. And I did very similar to you. It wasn't in the dressing part because we were in a warehouse. And so it was like quite literally as, comfortable and as sweaty as you could be in the same place. But my tone, the way I would talk to people became very, very masculine, very, very quickly. And I was in a man's world. We were in an industrial warehouse type facility. We were the only women. And the way I was being talked to started to become the way I was talking. And I hated the way I was being talked to, but I very quickly leveled up to a place where I thought, if I'm going to be in this space, I have to talk this way. I have to be assertive in this way. Even though it doesn't necessarily feel good, it feels very foreign. And I wouldn't say it felt bad either. I want to be really transparent about that because there was a part of me that had like a power high. I'm not gonna lie about that. Like it felt really good to be in charge and to have multiple employees and for them to all be men, but for me to be the boss. Like, that shit did feel good. And there was a turning point for me where I finally got to this place where I thought, who is she? Like, this isn't me. This isn't the way I talk. This doesn't feel, and like you mentioned, the anxiety, I do feel like anyone who feels anxiety. Now, obviously, there are other ends of the spectrum that have severe anxiety and have chemical imbalances. And I'm not talking about those people, but people who have what I would consider pretty normal anxiety. That's your body communicating with you, saying something is wrong internally in our environment and we're not okay. And it's coming out in your body. You're getting sick, like you mentioned. And that's the place where I was. I was coming home and talking to my husband the same way I was talking to vendors. I was coming home and talking to friends the way I would also talk to, like, it was just, I didn't know where to cut it off. And I also didn't have time to even think about it. We were working 50, 60-hour weeks, killing ourselves. And I was just so damn exhausted, honestly. And so it was just survival at that point. But now looking back on it, I can definitively say, like, that's what I was doing. Like, hearing you share yours, I was sitting here thinking, ding, ding, ding. Like, that's exactly what happened to me. And I can look back on her, that version of myself, fondly and be proud because I had to learn that way. I had to learn being in the masculine so that I could appreciate and really want to be in the feminine as well. You have to earn your stripes, right? Like, you have to learn the process to like come out on the other side. So I think that was a really good story to share, and I totally resonated with that. I want to talk about your shifting point. Like you said, it was with your priestess group. I feel like I have my own version of that. And it was actually at our facilitator training in Austin. And it was the visualization that Ashley Garcia did. Do you remember that? When we all laid in the circle with our heads, she walked around and did the visualization. So I've talked about it on another episode with a friend of mine, but that felt like a turning moment to me because she said somewhere in that uh, moment about looking in the mirror at yourself. Who do you see? What does she look like? What kind of car does she drive? Like all of this stuff. And the mirror aspect of it was where it got me. Like I looked in the mirror and it was not the person I had seen that morning in the mirror. Like when we were getting ready at our house together, like I had these long blonde extensions and it just wasn't me. Um, so that is what I would classify as my significant moment. So I want to hear for you in the group with the priestess group, what did that moment look like for you?
I mean, for me, it was the big dick moment. Like it was
Yeah.
me confessing and realizing that I had been carrying all of this masculine energy for so long and it felt so heavy. I mean, not just in the metaphorical dick, but like my body felt heavy, my
Yeah.
shoulders felt heavy. I all of a sudden like had all these like images show up in my mind of like ways that I had been like bossing my husband around, bossing my children, trying to force them to do these things. And I came home with ideas from the group like, well, instead of asking your husband repeatedly to do things, what if you just stuck a few things on a sticky note and just stuck it on his desk? Like, it would be wonderful if you could empty the dishwasher, if you could do the dishes, if you could pay the whatever. And I found a new way to communicate that he loved. He was like, I love when you give me these sticky notes because then I can take it and I can look at it and I can do the thing and then I can like cross it off and then I can throw it in the garbage. And it was like a new way of thinking, oh, the way that I talk to myself or talk to other people doesn't necessarily work for him. When you're talking about the visualizations, I've done several of those too, where you're like, what does your future self look like? And for me, it's always like long, flowy, dark hair, and I'm much thinner and leaner than I am now. And it's interesting because I've kind of done similarly to you. Like, I think you were like playing a little bit with gray hair and like taking out the extensions and being a little bit less fake or plasticky, you know, like for
Mm-hmm.
me, it was stopping Botox. I have literally have gray hair intentionally, and I'm going to my hair lady and we're like helping the gray come through because I've been just dyeing it since I was like 15. And there are days that I love it and feel real like sexy milfy. And then there's other days that I'm like, I look so fucking old. Um, and so I'm like just learning to embrace the 40-year-old version of myself that I think society is constantly telling us look younger, live eternal, you know, do collagen injections, do all this stuff, which is great. And if that's how you want your physical form to be, awesome. But like, I needed to get back in touch with me. This is like the second time I've done my nails professionally in a whole year. Like I was doing them for vacation and then I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. I think I actually enjoy having this back. But anyway, it's all fluid. What I was going to say about perception as the way that it relates to business, the magical turning point for me in my business and stepping into this femininity was I hired a lady to do a whole new brand guide for me. So I had originally done like masculine colors for my business, like dark blue, dark green, brick red, like mustard yellow, like kind of similarly to some of the colors in your background without like the purples.
Mm-hmm.
And we did this photo shoot and it was against like a brick background and like I had my suit and like I felt so masculine. And I like after I had this experience, I went back and I looked at kind of our branding and what it was happening. And I was like, I hate this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pink and light blue and coral or whatever. Like I want to be lighter and I want to do photo shoots where I don't wear jackets. Like I'm normal. And so
Mm-hmm.
I paid to have a total rebrand done. I paid a photographer to take like 100 pictures of like me in jeans with jeans rolled up with no shoes on, with like a regular t-shirt with my laptop on my lap. And like there's one with me on the sofa in here. And like my dog is in the picture. And like I just look like a normal person.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, the cranky like old man customers, you know, potential customers that would reach out to me and be like, I'll pay you commission if you sell something, little lady. Like that all went away because my brand repelled them. And they were like, who is
Mm-hmm.
this young little lady that's trying to, like, I want, you know, so they were looking for more masculinity subconsciously. But, who came to me was women-owned companies that are here to like save the planet, that are doing like regenerative farming and eco-friendly stuff. And like, to watch the way that our customer evolution has happened, I started asking for big engagement fees, like $2,500 to $5,000 a month. People were like, oh yeah, sure. Here's all this money. It totally changed my business because I started aligning with who I actually am inside and projecting it onto the outside in my social media, in my marketing, in my branding, in my pictures, and the colors that we used. And all of a sudden, like, my perfect ideal customer was coming to me. And that shifted immediately the last, 6-7 years of my business.
Mm. Wow. So many things I want to go back on. First off, I want to go back to the priestess moment for a second because I remember you sharing about this group when we were in Austin together and rooming together. I remember you showing me pictures, and it was all of these very empowered, beautiful women. And I want to highlight that for a second because I feel like, and I've done a couple of podcasts at this point that haven't aired yet, but they will, about the importance of women in your life, strong women in your life, and how they can be such a catalyst for growth, for you to find who you are because you're seeing them live this authentic life. And I'm sure that that was your moment that you had this epiphany. And I'm sure it had so much, if not everything, to do with who you were surrounded by, the freedom and the safety that you felt in that group to even think in that way. And I want to highlight that because that to me is the game changer. That to me is like I could have had a visualization at a spa or at Miraval or something, and it would not have been as impactful as it was at the retreat in Austin because I was surrounded by women, strong women who knew what they wanted and they knew who they were, at least who they were in that moment, and they were striving to be the next version. That shit's infectious, right? And it's part of the reason why I wanted to do the hype squad specifically, because I feel like if I, because I mean, if no one else listens to this, I get so much out of these conversations because I want to put myself in the room with really strong women. I want to hear really strong women talk really highly and brag and be full of themselves because then it gives me the permission to do the same thing for me, the permission for me to go inside and figure out what makes me happy. And so I love that that was the moment that turned around for you. And I think that's huge. I also want to go back to, you changing your brand and your colors and your photos and how being more authentic to yourself brought in your authentic clients. Like the people who you were meant for could find you now because you were showing them who you really were. And I feel like that is a really pivotal thing for anyone is like once you can start being true to yourself. I was saying this recently to a client. For me personally, the way I can figure out who I really am and who I really am not is like judging my energy levels after I interact with someone, after I'm in a room full of people. And if I come home and I'm exhausted and spent, it means that I was pretending. I was pretending all that time. And that's why I'm exhausted, is because that's not who I really am. And I don't have to pretend in this chapter. And it feels so free. And it's also another reason why the podcast was a really good step for me because Instagram, I feel like it feels like pretending to me. Like me getting on stories and talking on stories feels like pretending. This, talking to women, girl, I could do this shit until the cows come home, like ever in a day. So I love this energy. I want to talk about for a second, and if you're open to sharing the shift in your business and in yourself, how did that play out in your personal relationships, in your friendships, in your romantic relationships? Like that shift happening over here, I can only assume that it happened at home in every other facet as well. Is that fair?
Yeah, for sure. I would say immediately it provided relief when I came back home because I wasn't bossing everybody around and I wasn't feeling non-supported because I learned new tools to ask for help. I would say once your awareness is open to new things, it's kind of like a domino effect. And then you're like, oh, well, this isn't the way I was seeing it before. And this isn't the way I was seeing it before. And so for me, starting that shift, stepping into my femininity in my personal life meant I made new friends that opened my eyes to new things like I've done now, medicine journeys, and tried things I've never tried in my whole life. I spent 38 years never even touching a cigarette. I had not done anything. And I was like, I want to try new things. I want to open my mind. I want to explore and not be such a tight ass. Like I was such a tight ass for so many years, being in this masculine, I'm better than everybody. I have all these degrees. I can climb the corporate ladder. And I was just like, who am I? What is it like to really be a human in this world? What are these things of exploration that I've never tried or thought that I deserved? What is the programming that society has, given me, or my parents or the church has given me that may not be totally true, that may not authentically be me? And so I started with like the medicine journey stuff and trying mushrooms and feeling super connected to the earth and to like other lives and all of that kind of stuff. And then let's see, I think that it led me to kind of questioning my own relationship and do I actually feel fulfilled? Like I was telling everybody, I'm having such great sex. We have such a great relationship. And then this veil kind of like fell from my eyes and I realized, oh no, just because I'm having sex doesn't mean it's great sex. I'm 38 and I've literally had sex in the same two positions for 20 years. Like I can anticipate what's happening next. There's a whole world of stuff out there that I want to try. And then realizing that my husband at the time was not open or interested in trying any of those things and having conversations about opening my relationship. But then eventually our marriage kind of dissolved in a very amicable, happy, sweet, conscious way. And he's getting married next month to someone new. And I have a partner that lives with me and has for 2.5 years. So like, I think the turning point, all of a sudden my life went from being very like strict and rigid to fluid and just flowing with one change to the next change. And then I'm realizing now in my life that when I'm open and calling in exactly what I want, it's this beautiful fluid turnover. Like a client might leave, but an even better one comes in. A partner that Scott and I have, might end our relationship, but then the next week a new person comes in and like we have a date on Wednesday night with a brand new person and we just close a chapter of another person we were dating. So it's like I just look at life very differently, where it's not like this is the one person that can make me happy that I said vows to that I must live with forever no matter what. And instead it's like, this isn't working for you. Great. I send you off with blessings. Go find the person that's going to light your soul on fire for your life, Same with clients, same with business. My business is so fluid, like, especially through COVID. It was this certain way where we had these really high paying clients. And then COVID happened and everybody was like, we can't afford this. Our business is going to go bankrupt. So we went to hourly work and then we added social media and then we added podcasting. And then we just keep evolving. So I am an ever evolving creature now because of that moment, surrounded by all those women with the metaphorical dick, realizing I don't want to be this person anymore.
Yeah, God, I hear so much abundance like in your voice and your words. I'm curious though, because I'm hearing you say you've spent so many years in this very masculine energy. Does that version of you creep in now that you have to put her away? How do you kind of stifle that voice from coming out in just like your everyday life? How does that work?
When I get stressed, I lean into my masculine and my family can feel it. I can feel it happening to my partner. I get like really rigid, and I'm like, why is nobody helping with the dishes? Why is nobody helping me? And then I realize, oh, I just am not asking for help. Like I just need to ask. I just need to assign these things out. I think I get that way too, like with money. I get like hyper fixated on like what's coming in and what's going out and is it enough? And it's always enough. But there's this part in the back of my mind that is like, Um, what if this all blows up? What if, and for 10 years in my own firm, like it hasn't, it just keeps going and propelling. And it's this beautiful fluid thing. But when I allow myself to get super stressed, usually it's because I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not saying no. I'm not like really honoring and blocking off my calendar and making sure that I have space to breathe. I notice it when I take more control than I need to from the team. And now my team has been long enough with me. Like my team lead, Ashley, will go, "We're good. We don't need you to be in everything. Like, go read a book.
Back up." Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right." Yeah. But it still
Okay.
creeps in every now and then.
So self-care, I'm hearing you say self-care, taking care of yourself, asking for help. Are there any other tips that you would say are like your go-tos to like recenter yourself before you fly off the handle or whatever may happen for you?
I think to me, it all starts with taking care of me.
Okay.
So lots of little things that I do. Like when I first started this after my priestess event, one of the questions she asked was, what is one thing that you can implement? It goes back to the calendar, but what is one thing you can implement now in your life to help you be in your feminine, to help you take care of yourself? And for me at that point, like a monthly massage was like a wild idea that I would spend money every month, once a month on. It's hilarious because now I do it every week. I literally do a 90-minute massage every freaking Wednesday at lunch every Wednesday, and it's there. And sometimes I change providers because each one is different. I have some that are like really woo woo, and I have some that just let me like kind of space out and take a nap and like give my brain a rest, where others are a little bit more work, but I need it. And for me, I've had multi-million-dollar ideas download when I'm laying on the table. There is something about like being able to set everything aside for 90 minutes and being really in your body as someone is massaging you. And for me, this is how it works. That my mind opens and it's like, okay, I can look at things from like a 30,000-foot view, or I can just be open and let things drop in, which is incredible. So I do that. I do facials. I sometimes get my nails done. The other big thing that I started learning to do was add in rest. Like we are not built to work 5 days a week for 40 hours or even 7 days a week. Like it's not healthy. And so I started looking at my calendar, and I do this thing at the end of every single year where I buy the calendar for the next year. And sometime in December, I sit down and I get really intentional about my year. And for my business, I block like one, like a 3-day or 4-day weekend. I just find like, okay, when's the next holiday that's big? Okay, I'm going to block that time off and be intentional, and let's get away. Or let's block off those days and do a staycation, but don't do freaking anything. Like we'll go to the community pool. We'll lay outside and read in a hammock, like whatever that needs to be. Or I've done a lot where I've just taken little mini vacations, just something to get you out of your element. Because I notice when I stay home, I'm still thinking like, I need to do laundry. I need to put the clothes away. I need to do this. I need to do that. It's like physically moving yourself to another place. If you go on a cruise, don't buy the Wi-Fi package. Literally be offline. It's the greatest excuse. Like, I'm in the middle of the ocean. There's no Wi-Fi. I'm sorry. And just allow your body to recharge, allow the mental dump to happen. Like it takes a day or two sometimes to just like let it all fall out of your brain. And then you're like, whoa, I'm a whole perfect human without all the work stuff. Like I am not that. I'm not work. So those are things that work for me. Ooh, one other good thing that I learned from Sage Levine is don't work on Fridays. So to like block off every Friday, turn it off on your calendar. Don't let people put their stuff on there. And then you choose what you're going to do at that time. It can be a 3-day weekend. It could be you're writing a book, and that's your really creative day to just sink in and write your book. It could be, that's when you do your blogs for your website. It could be your podcasting day. Like it could just be something fun in your business, learning something for your business, taking a class online, or just don't do anything. And so when I realized when I condensed my week into 4 days, and I still block off, like I don't even start till 10 a.m. because I want to get kids in school. I want to get home, have my coffee. Then I'm ready to have a conversation with people at 10. And then I stop at 3:00, and then I go get my kids from school, and then I'm a mom. So I have little pockets throughout the day that I am available. I'm blocking off all the rest, and I totally block off my Fridays. And it works. Nobody even notices, I promise. When you give them your Calendly link, they're like, oh, okay, I just can't book on these days. Great. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, I love that. So I do the Friday thing, but I do it on Monday. And I record on Mondays. And I think for me, it's helped shift the narrative of Monday being a really hard day and like acclimating into the work week versus doing it on Friday, because Monday, it's like I get to start my week excited, energy, happy, fulfilled. And then I get to go into what may be heavy sessions. Sometimes they're not. I still love Tuesday through Friday, but like Monday is I'm not sitting at my computer. I'm not in that chair. It's a different type of day. So I do love that. I have never really considered, because I was just like, Monday's just my block day for recording, but I love having that narrative of this is my fun creative time. That's really, really good. Also, there was something else I was going to add, and now I've lost it. Okay. So a part of me thinks the only reason I am here now, and the only reason I think that you're probably, and you probably would agree with me where you are now, is because we've experienced the hustle. We've experienced the masculine, and we knew it didn't work for us. And I think that for anyone who might be listening to this, who is like still in that masculine and in that moment of my dick is bigger than everyone else's dick and whatever that may be, I hope that they can hear this conversation and know that there is another side to this. Like, you've got to experience what doesn't work for you before you know what does work for you. You have to, because then you can't recognize the shit that really works for you, and you might dismiss it. So it's like it's like you have to earn your stripes a little bit, like get in that world to realize that it's not working for you. So then you can then shift it. I think that's a good thing to kind of highlight in this conversation, because there's going to be a lot of women that hear this that are like, I'm nowhere near my feminine, like badass woman era. Like, I'm still in this hustle, throw my dick on the table so everyone can see how big it is type of thing. I get that. And you and I have both been there. And use that to fuel you. Use that to set the tone for what the next chapter can look like for you, and learn every possible thing you can. Because the more you learn, the more you're prepared to go out and do it on your own, whatever that may look like for you. So I just want to, I want to say that, because I do feel like that's an important thing to highlight. I also want to, I want to ask you for your hype list. I know, so anyone who's listening to this that's not familiar, or maybe this is the first time you've heard this podcast, the Hype Squad name came from an assignment that I give to all of my clients, and I call it the Hype List. And it was a way for clients of mine, these women, to be reminded of all of the amazing shit that they have done in their life and how truly incredible they are. And what it is it's just a list. It's a list of achievements, and it's a list of obstacles you had to overcome in order to get to that. And I tell a lot of the women I work with, frame that shit. Like, pick your top 10, frame it, be constantly adding to it, because it's a way of bragging about yourself, because we forget in really hard times the shit that we've actually accomplished and how amazing we truly are. So that's what the hype list is. So Jen, I want you, if you are open to it, sharing at least one achievement and obstacle that you had to overcome in order to achieve it.
I feel like there's a lot of what I would consider little things, but like one being actually creating a real company. I think it took like 4 or 5 years before I remember driving into my garage, and all of a sudden I was like, I have a real company. Like, I have several employees and clients, and this is consistent. This is continually consistent. Like, it's real. And like actually tangibly realizing I had created my own company. That would be like the first thing. And then the second was the year I realized I had already made like $3 million. I looked back at my QuickBooks. For me, it's just numbers. Like it's numbers in, it's numbers out, it's numbers to buy things, it's whatever, But so I'm not a super analytical person. And so I remember looking back at my QuickBooks because I was just curious. So I was like, what have we done? And when I was like 3.3 million at that time, and I was like, holy crap. Where is all of it? Like it went right back out in payroll, right? And so, but still to think I'm part of the 1%. And realizing, and I've kind of always been like this since my Mary Kay days, but like, it's my responsibility to share that this is possible, to share the equation of success, to share that it's not always been easy. So I think the second part or the third, like what's next to that is like, I was on food stamps. Like when I first became an adult, I remember being pregnant and my husband and I at the time being like, how are we going to get milk? Like I had to go get assistance. So like I have gone from that to multi-million-dollar generating company. And so I think that's probably one of the proudest things that I've created. And then I guess I would say like lastly, creating an environment that is very feminine. I have almost all moms that work for me. We're all working from home. They don't have schedules. They just go in, they do their work, they get it done, and then they go to Carline. And creating an environment that brings in obviously millions of dollars over the last few years. And it's possible. Like it's possible to not lead in a mean, masculine way. It's like, it's possible to be very flowy. It's possible to trust my team. It's possible. So every time I get one more woman out of a cubicle, one more woman that gets to spend more time with her kids, one more woman that gets to go eat lunch with her kids at school or, do whatever she wants, go take a massage in the middle of the day. That for me feels like the ultimate success is creating that environment for other people and watching them thrive.
Jen, I felt that. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I am so grateful that you came and did this with me today. And honestly, I would do this any and every opportunity you had because I love having these conversations. And hopefully you'll come back because I feel like there are so many more conversations we could have. So yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming and getting hyped with me. This was the best start to my Monday. So I appreciate you. I'm going to put all of the show notes. I'll put everything that was talked about today, how you can find Jen, her podcast, her website, whether you want to do marketing for your business, or she will do it all. She'll do your podcast for you, all kinds of things. So I'll put all of those contact informations in the show notes, and I just love you, Jen. Thank you so much.
I love you too. Thanks for having me.
All right. I hope that everyone listening is kind to themselves today and every day, and have a good one.